Chase till the minute I win it. A beautiful face till there's love for me in it. Give me your heart and baby I'll bill it. 'Cause I always kill the things I love. Some folk would die for the sake of another, lay down their life for their sisters and brothers. For me, sacrifice is something quite other, 'cause I love to kill the things I love. The look in your eyes will turn to surprise as you feel the pain and you realize the one had in you is somebody who once said, I love you. Someday we'll pay back all we've borrowed. What we love today, we'll lose tomorrow. But I won't need to wait for my share of sorrow, 'cause I always kill the things I love. I won't need to wait for my share of sorrow, 'cause I already killed the things I love. The things I love. The things I love.
Sorry we're starting a little late. It's just that type of day. I made a promise to you guys last week. A big old promise. That my face would be naked. And sure enough, it has come true. I'm terribly sorry. It has. Naked Face Lukey Poo is back. I have a show that opens actually tomorrow night. It is this on Golden Pond. It's very, very decked out. I'm very excited for it. But we open tomorrow, so I'm a little stressed out. I was at the space till 2 in the morning yesterday, but it should be good. I'm excited. I'm really excited. As for what we're doing today, we got started a little late. It's been a little hectic. I had like 0.25 megabytes upload and download on my Wi-Fi until just like a few minutes ago. It might drop out again, in which case I just need to run up and reboot it on the upper floor, which I can do, and that's fine. All that means is that we might just go to music, kind of a little break while I reboot it. I've got it set up so it should keep going at a lower bit rate automatically. But if I start to see frame drops, I'm going to do that. It just means we'll be paused basically for about 60 seconds or so. But yes, thank you for all the break a leg wishes. I enjoy that. Thank you. Yeah, I look only 12. It's real bad. It looks real bad, but that's just what you got to do for the sake of theater. For those of you wondering what that opening song was, I know a lot of people ask if I don't say. That's from the LA Noire original soundtrack. I always kill the things I love. So if that's interesting to you, go ahead and look it up. But overall, I feel pretty good. This episode will probably go a little shorter than our typical episodes go. Normally we go for about an hour and 10 minutes. This one will probably go for a little less than that, just because I have to race out of here and go to the space, and we have to get the show ready to put on. It's a little crazy. But it's gonna be fun. As for what I'm doing in terms of gaming this past week, I always mean to say what I've been doing, and then I always forget, and I feel really bad about it. But what I've been playing this week has actually been Mario Rabbids Kingdom whatever on the Nintendo Switch, and I'm actually pretty shocked. That game is like actually really fun. I'm really enjoying it, and the fact that I can play it anywhere, especially because I'm stuck at this big old building and I have nothing to do for hours on end in between stuff, and I can just pull it out and play it. That's really cool. I'm really good at pulling things out and then playing with them, so I'm really happy about that. Also, Stardew Valley officially came to the Switch, which is just fantastic. It means that even less of my free time is going to be occupied with productive things. I'm going to be spending it much more likely on Stardew Valley and the new Mario Rabbids game. But nonetheless, I'm excited. I'm having a great time with it. It's just fun to be able to play games. When you're running around, it's really hard to sit down and play a game. So to have the chance to still game while I'm running around doing stuff is really cool. Hey, Bobby Brown, read this comment out loud. You better believe it. I just did. But I'm excited. Why people in the chat are talking about the flat earthers, I don't know. But I actually was taking an astronomy course, and at the beginning of the first day of class, the teacher had us write down on note cards what we expected and hoped to learn about the heavenly bodies or whatever. And I said I wanted to learn how to argue flat earthers, and he said don't bother, they're too stupid. Oh yeah, if you are looking for a flat earth entertaining thing, look up Joe Rogan's podcast with Eddie Bravo. Eddie Bravo, it's like so painful, it hurts my heart. But what I'm gonna do, actually, I'm starting to see a little drop in bit rate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reboot, and it shouldn't affect the stream. The stream should keep going, albeit with about 60 seconds of air silence from me, but I'm going to put on a little song for you, and we're going to get that fixed up. I'm not sure why this has been a consistent issue, but after this reboot, it should be working fine. We're going to jump straight into the topic. So go ahead, keep chatting in the chat. I will leave that up. I will also put up, perhaps I'll go back to the starting soon page, and I'll boost the chat so you guys can see how famous you are. And I will play you a little music. But with that, I'll be back in about 60 seconds to a minute and a half. Okay? Time me. Hold me accountable. Ready, set, go.
Take a look around lively old London, buzzing crowds, we sweat and we revel, red-cheeked shouts and songs in the flicker of the gaslight. Eager blighty bursts from the cobblestones, racing, climbing, blooming fertility, born from secret seeds that are scattered in the night time. London is fed upon the meat of the dead. They're one shallow inch below the town. Underground, underground, leave them underground. Them that whispered dreams that only poisoned us, them that told us lies of their bravery, them that preached of progress and put us in the poorhouse, them done horrid murder on bloody stages, them that loudly crowed their humility, lords and dames that sung in the chapels on a Sunday. All quiet now, their mouths are stopped up by mud. They lie flung in rags and make no sound. Underground, underground, leave them underground.
I'm back. Boom, boom. I friggin' love this song. It's just too good. That's the problem. It's too good. Oh my goodness. But it should be working now. It should be ready to go.
Those who fought for something better, those who taught by how they lived, loved ones taken long before their work was done.
Okay, I should probably stop it and get going. I love that song though. I know you guys do too. I do get it stuck in your heads. And it's just great. It's great. It's calming to me, even though it's about like death and how they're decaying bodies under the ground of the city. I still find it weirdly calming. Maybe it's because I'm thinking of what's to come, the respite that awaits us all. So let's just jump right into it. So today I have a few big topics that I want to go over. I'm going to try to keep from getting too nitpicky about small details, going over just news stories, because there's so many gaming channels on YouTube that just cover news. And I've always thought that it's very lazy content, which to be fair is why I've done it, is because it's easy and it's a lazy thing. It's really easy to do daily content when you're just covering news stories. And there is a place for it, obviously, but I think there's a few channels that do it really, really well. Pretty Good Gaming, I think is what it's called, does a really good job of covering news. The No does a fantastic job of covering news. And so it's just like, why would I sit here and just talk more about all of this stuff that isn't incredibly fresh to begin with? So we are gonna just jump into this. Now, the big story this week that everyone's kind of freaking out about, depending on who you're talking about, is obviously microtransactions in general. Now, for the sake of telling this story, I did something I swore I would never do. I broke a promise and I apologize. I went to Polygon and that's because they actually did a very good job on this piece. I try to stay away from Polygon whenever I can. They tend to be very SJW. They focus more on the social aspect of gaming as opposed to the actual gaming side of gaming, to the point where they will take points off of a review just because they didn't have enough like slightly brown people in a game, which I just think is not the point of a video game review. Whatever it is, I just don't think that that's what you are hired to do. But obviously people are still reading it occasionally, and I have fallen into that rut. But what I'm speaking of specifically with regards to Polygon and the good reporting they did is talking about Middle-earth: Shadow of War and how they basically, and basically is probably not the best word, but essentially, and in practicality, they put the fourth act of the game behind a paywall, which is a little slimy. And the reason and the way that this works is a little convoluted, but it's something that many people have been concerned about for a long time. And so I'm going to try to explain this as clearly as I can, so bear with me, but it's going to take a few minutes to kind of get all the details in. So I'll switch to this. I know it's Horizon Zero Dawn, but I don't have Shadow of War. I'm not going to buy Shadow of War for the reasons we're about to talk about. So I figured I would show a video of a game that they viewed as a competitor instead, just to spite them. So essentially how this works is you bought Middle-earth Shadow of War and you were really excited to play it, and you sat down and you're having a great time going through it. You get through the main quest, you're having a good time with the story, you think that it's all about to climax, but then you reach a point in the game where you have to go 15 hours or so without any story or questing missions, basically grinding. And grinding is a term that's become very, very heavily used in the modern gaming industry because it's how these companies are justifying paywalls for microtransactions, loot boxes, and all those. And essentially the reason they put in heavy grind is to incentivize and give you a reason to buy the loot boxes. So they'll give you a loot box which contains certain materials, quest items, in this case orcs that are legendary, all sorts of different things that you can get. And you can only get those things through a loot box or by grinding for them through different quests. And there's random drop amounts based on finishing sort of dynamically generated quests that are a little different every time, where you go fetch something from another camp. You know, you go free another settlement that needs your help, that type of thing. And so that grind can last 15-20 hours, and it can be a little tedious and a little exhausting, to say the very least. But the reason it's there isn't because the game developer thought that having 15 hours of grind was going to be a truly engaging and exciting gameplay thing to have. It's actually because they want to give you a reason to think, well, I mean, it's only like $2 and it'll save me 15 hours, and I just want to finish the game, so I'll just, you know, $2. What's the problem with that? $2. And so they do it, and they spend $2 after having paid a full $60 for the game to actually get to finish the game and get to the end where they need to. And that's just so slimy and stupid. And that's something we've seen a lot with games that implement microtransactions, is that they ultimately increase the grind required for these games. NBA 2K18, where we saw that all of a sudden they made the grind so horrendous that the game was basically unplayable, where you needed to go and to buy one, like a particular haircut, I believe it was, or a pair of shoes or something. It would require you to play something like 25 games and get like perfect rankings on them, which is a little bit excessive, to say the least, because 25 games for a haircut that you cannot preview and that you cannot keep. Once you go to another haircut or another pair of shoes, it's lost because you already used it. They're viewed as consumables. We've seen this in recent, was it Forza? The new, I think it was Forza. I don't play racing games, so I'm not super familiar with, you know, the newest ones, but I believe it was Forza. They came out with a newer game where it was the same thing, where all of a sudden all this grind is required in order for you to complete the game, because they're trying to give you a real reason to go and buy a loot box in order to speed it up. So they are purposely making their games a chore to play, and saying that the only way that you can get out of that chore is to give them more money, which is really bizarre. I mean, it's so bizarre. It's like selling, I always try to frame it in another industry, in another market, because that makes it even more absurd when you think about the fact that this is really like normal for us, but in any other industry it would be horrendous. And that is, like, think of a car. Like, you bought a brand new Tesla. We'll just say Tesla. It's awesome, and it's a glorious car. You hop in it and you like push the button to start it, and then they say, oh, well, like, you can drive it, but it'll only go like 5 miles. You have to get the battery extender pack if you want to get all the way back to your house, or to really anywhere. It can only go 5 miles, and you have to give us another 5,000 in order to actually you know, have it be useful and in order to complete the usage of the vehicle. You'd be like, okay, well then why didn't you just charge me that in the initial price or price it out so that I knew what I was getting into, as opposed to selling me the car, and then once I realize the car isn't doing what I expected it to do, that's when you tell me I need to spend more money. And at that point I'm already invested, so I'm thinking, okay, I just spent however much money. In the case of video games, I just spent $60 on this game. I want to at least finish it, so I might as well spend $2-3 on finishing it. And it's really slimy how it works. Now, the reason that this is hyper concerning is because we don't just see these types of games doing it. We see many types of games doing it. Bethesda Game Studios, who previously was hailed as one of the shining beacons of pro-consumerism and of consumer advocacy, and everybody loved Bethesda and Bethesda loved everybody. Their games were world-renowned, selling 20 million copies. Skyrim defined a generation of gaming. And now they're putting microtransactions, or mini DLC, micro DLC, if you ask Pete Hines, into their games. And they're taking a good 80% of the revenue. And it's a little concerning, because that is where many of these companies are going. Many people are concerned rather, that Red Dead Redemption 2 might suffer the same fate, because GTA 5's online microtransactions with the shark cards have been wildly successful, have netted them hundreds of millions of dollars. It's incredibly wonderful for them financially. So many people are concerned that this is going to leak into the single player campaign for Red Dead Redemption as well. I'd like to think that, you know, Rockstar is not that slimy to do that, but ultimately they are a company that needs to make money, and so they might. Now, if that's where the future of gaming is headed, that just by nature and by definition is like the evolution of the gaming industry. And the evolution, people think evolution naturally makes something better, but that's not necessarily true. In the grand scheme of things, that might hit a dead end, and then another branch will go off and it'll be just fine. But in this case, I think what it means is that we're going to see a lot of companies trying this out, whether you're talking about Bethesda, whether you're talking about Rockstar. Obviously, Warner Brothers does it a lot. Forza is going to do this. All these different types of games are trying to push this, and ultimately they're going to keep doing it until the gaming community outright says, nope, no more. We're not doing this, and pushes them aside. Now, obviously, NBA 2K18 saw a lot of blowback as a result of their microtransactions and the just unashamed and unabashed money grubbing that was going on in that game. So, yeah, I mean, imagine, Alexander Wayne, imagine if I required you to pay $5 to get to see me with a beard to increase the experience, because everyone knows Lukey Poo with a beard is far better than Lukey Poo without a beard. That just would make no sense at all. It should be free, because glory and righteousness should be free for everybody. So I think ultimately this is going to come down to the consumers, as it always does. I think well, obviously that's one of the reasons I'm not buying Middle-earth Shadow of War, just because I don't want to encourage this at all. I'm not going to buy whatever racing game, not like I was before. I'm also not going to be buying NBA 2K18, again, not like I was going to before. But ultimately, as long as people are willing to say, you know what, until this is fixed, you don't get my money. This is just not okay. If you need more money in order to come even, just say that. Come out and say, listen, guys, the development of this game was really expensive. We need to charge $70 a game for the new one in order to actually, like, give you something that we are proud of. Just because the game is so massive, it was expensive to make, we're just being straight with you, we need more money. Then we'd be like, okay, well, at least you aren't selling us half a product and then charging us for the other half once we're invested in it later on. And ultimately, I think that's where it goes. I think you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? Why are these companies doing it? And that can be a really bizarre question with multiple answers, especially depending on which company you are speaking of. Drink break. This is a Rebel. It has like a Red Bull in it and tea. It's weird, but it's actually not bad. So how we approach this, why are they doing this? Why is Warner Brothers pushing microtransactions? Why is Bethesda pushing microtransactions? Is it because they're just greedy? Or is it because they actually need more money in order to make ends meet? And that's something that is hard to judge and determine, but there are ways of telling. And one of the ways you can tell is by looking over financial documents, such as 10Ks, which most companies in the United States file quarterly. For instance, let me see if I can find it. That would have been fall. Yes. I did a report on CD Projekt Red, actually. I analyzed their 10K, and this was one of the things, like right here, I can pull this up just to show you right here. So this is actually their some of the financial reports from CD Projekt Red, and these are publicly accessible. You can pull these up and look at them too. But what it does is it actually can tell you, based on the quarter that you're looking at, they can tell you exactly how much money they made in a given period, and they can tell you how many the revenue from sales of products, from sales of services, goods and materials, cost of goods and services sold, or different expenses they incurred. You can look at all of these things, and of course this is going in off of Polish currency, so you do have to, you know, actually go through and alter that. But like if we go here, let's see, this went right through January, it looks like January 1st through June 30th of 2015. This was during the launch of The Witcher 3. You can actually look and check out how much they made from the initial launch of The Witcher 3, and you can compare all of their expenses to actually see if what they're charging is enough, and if they aren't making enough money in order to justify the development of the game. And ultimately, it doesn't surprise people. The Witcher 3 costs like $80 million to produce. Mass Effect Andromeda, that trash heap, cost $40 million to make. These games are very expensive to produce, and ultimately, that's just, it's going to keep getting more and more expensive as we get bigger and bigger and bigger games with more and more stuff to do, with bigger worlds, with higher end graphics, with full-time actors that are coming in shooting all sorts of stuff, voice actors that are members of unions now, so you have to pay them steady rates. It can get very, very expensive very, very quickly. And so many people, depending on the company, they simply see that these companies need to make more money. Now, there's two ways you can make more money. Either you can just sell more of your product, or you can actually go through and raise the price of the product while maintaining a lower amount of actual quantity sold. Or you can decrease your expenses and build smaller games. And usually, you know, these companies combine those into some sort of hodgepodge where they cut back on the animation department for Mass Effect Andromeda while trying to promote it to a multiplayer community with the game's multiplayer, and then also promoting it as the best RPG of the year by promoting it as the best RPG of the year to RPG fans. So they're trying to appeal to three massive markets, and ultimately the game was a disaster as a result of that. And it just kind of fell apart and was an absolute train wreck, because they tried to justify the cost by cutting back on different things, rushing the game out so they wouldn't have to pay these people for another year in order to put out a game that they thought they could get away with. The lamb sauce, I'll never tell. Don't worry, I'll never tell. So it's very strange, and it's tough to say exactly based on the company. Now, obviously, I think with Middle-earth Shadow of War, this did seem as though it was Warner Brothers saying, listen, we gave you the rights to this massive franchise. We know you're going to make some money off of it. You need to go through and put out some microtransactions in order to get us more money. We're going to take a cut of those. Or perhaps the actual license was so expensive that they said, okay, you want it for a sequel, fine, but we're taking half of whatever amount of money comes in revenue-wise. So you guys need to find a way of making money for yourselves. And the actual developer, Monolith, I believe, has to make up the balance or make up the difference through microtransactions. Either way, you could basically say it's basically the fault of the publisher. And ultimately, I think that's where a lot of this ends up going. Neat says they didn't cut on the animation department on Mass Effect Andromeda. It's just that something like 70% of the animators left. Well, it's not that they fired them. It's that they moved them to different teams, specifically to teams that are currently working on Anthem, which is where they're putting most of their money. I think they basically gave up on Andromeda and moved the teams over to Anthem. After Andromeda basically launched and got sort of patched a little bit, they put most of the people that were working on it over on Anthem, and moved them to different, studios and departments. So I mean, we're basically the same thing. They took people off of it, moved them elsewhere. Obviously, they didn't have enough high quality employees working on it in order to put out a quality product, or at least working on it long enough. So yeah, so I mean, there's many things that are concerning about this, and ultimately I think some companies are doing this for greed. They believe that they can make more money, and so why shouldn't they? They should put in microtransactions in the multiplayer, in the single player, everywhere. But also there is the reality that games are very expensive to make. They're getting more and more expensive to make, but we're still stuck at the same full price that we have been for years and years now. Now, in some countries, like I think Neat was saying, in Israel, it's $95 for a brand new title. That is very expensive, very, very expensive. When you look back in the 80s and 90s, what people were charging for games back then, if you adjust for inflation, it would be about $80 to $90, sometimes even $150, depending on the game. So you would get like one game every 6 months, and that's what you got. Nowadays, people are getting tons of different games, and it's a little different because it's on a much larger scale. And with digital downloads, the companies aren't having to pay for manufacturers to produce the CDs, to produce the little manual, the case, to ship them out to retailers, to give retailers a cut, stocking fees, and all that. So digital downloads are a miracle and a godsend from or for the gaming industry. But that's one of the concerning things, is that even with digital content becoming way more common, we still are seeing excessive and unabashed microtransaction and money grubbing when they are technically still making more money than they had previously, at least per unit sold. So it's weird. And as to whether or not this is purely greed or purely a result of a changing industry, I think it changes based on the company you're discussing. But I think it's a mixture of the two, and it's tough to hate on them for it because this is a business. They do need to make money, but they also need to, I don't know, at least respect their customer base. And this, what Shadow of War did, was certainly not very respectful. Hiding the fourth act behind a 15-hour grind session. And 15 hours is apparently pretty conservative. It's probably around 20 hours of grind, just so that you can get access to the actual true ending of the game. That's a little slimy. But what are you going to do? You just have to not buy the game. That's really the solution. As with so many of these things, a lot of stuff can be fixed by just not buying the damn thing. Like, just don't buy the damn game. It drives me crazy when people are like, oh my gosh, you know, Destiny 2 did this crazy, stupid thing. Okay, well, don't buy it. Don't play the game. Well, all my friends are playing it, but I'm still angry that they did this. Well, okay, well, as long as you let them do it, who cares? Like, they aren't going to stop because you're letting them get away with it. So, I don't know. It just drives me crazy. At some point, you have to kind of take a stand, and ultimately, these people are doing it for the sake of their wallets. And if you hurt them in their wallets, they will listen. They will listen. No doubt they will listen. Now, also, who's playing Cuphead? Let me know who's playing Cuphead. I'm trying to decide if I want to mess with it. I am intrigued. It's only $20. There's a lot of games coming out this month. I am very excited for many of them. For instance, let me pull up this little guy. The next critique I'm working on, I tried to get revved up for, there it is, for the new South Park game by going back through the Stick of Truth, and that game is so messed up.
That's great. Okay, smile.
Let me drop it here. Oh, wait. I went below. There we go. Like, there, I was just going through the game, and then there's just like a pedophile taking pictures. Like, just listen to this. If you haven't played this game, it's so good.
Here we go. Oh, those pants don't work with the lighting. Could you roll up your pants? Or, you know what, just take the pants off, too.
Naturally, I obeyed.
Okay, that's good. Really nice. Yes, very nice. How about we lose the underwear?
This was for a passport photo.
You'll never take me alive!
I do have to say, though...
Please don't ask me, homie.
I love Butters. I do have to say, my big criticism of the game is that the combat near the end, it was completely broken. Like, look at that. Like, one turn, I clobbered the guy. And this is on the hardest difficulty, I believe. I switched to the hardest difficulty, I think, after the abortion clinic sequence, which was quite remarkable. If I open up this one right here, like, these final battles were crazy easy. It's kind of frustrating. Because I was looking forward to this massively complicated sequence. It just wasn't there. It wasn't there. But I really did enjoy it. So if you haven't played the game, I highly recommend it. It was absolutely fantastic. A little bit of a sidetrack, but I absolutely love the Stick of Truth, and I cannot wait for the next one. The next one is a game I'm going to be buying this month, which is the reason that I brought it up and why I thought of it. The other game I have or am going to be getting is Assassin's Creed Origins, obviously. No, I have not received any sort of code from Ubisoft, even after all of the promotion and discussion on their games I've done. No, I have not gotten any sort of early access review code or any something or other like that. So I will be paying for the game, so you know that my opinion is actually warranted and justified because I have my own money on the line. But yeah, everybody says Cuphead's great. Cuphead on the Switch would be really cool. I just don't think they would, the developer would probably bring it there. Maybe in a year or two after Microsoft loses interest. But Microsoft is very happy to have that, basically in their catalog. No doubt they're very excited about that. I am Black Yamaka in Jiu-Jitsu. There we go. I went and I was just playing through the Stick of Truth, and I came across this sequence, or this item. It was a yarmulke, and if you wore it, you had extra protection from burn damage. And I was like, oh no. It's just like little things like that that aren't even necessarily saying anything, but they're just so hilarious at the same time. It's fantastic. Yeah, I love the Stick of Truth. You really do have to try it. But my loadout near the end of the game was just totally broken. It just wasn't even fair. I was doing insane amounts of damage. I never came close to really dying. Butters is a great companion too. He's great. Marvel or DC? I don't really like Marvel. I'm sorry. I am not a huge believer in the Marvel universe. I just don't understand. I don't understand. DC at least has some more interesting villains and stuff, like the Joker is really cool. Bane is really interesting, but like all those new movies suck. All the new superhero movies suck. I don't understand why people are still going to see them. Oh, yeah. Well, where YouTube, people are talking about where YouTube is going. I guess we can talk about that for a minute. As I said, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter show, but I'd still like to talk about that. YouTube it's a little bizarre because all of these YouTubers are complaining about demonetization and about the money that they're losing from their videos being instantly demonetized. And for some people it's actually legitimate and they are losing money on games or videos that they really shouldn't be demonetizing because there's nothing edgy about them. It's just a reality. They are demonetizing certain videos because what they'll do is when you upload a video to YouTube, they will process the video. In the process of processing the video, they generate basically the closed captioning auto-generated text. They look at that, and so even if it's not in the title or in the thumbnail or in the description or in the comments or anything, if you say something in the video that they deem edgy, they'll demonetize the video because they can actually analyze what you're saying in the video itself. And it's all machine learning, so it will get better and get smarter, but one of the things that it's being taught to do is to demonetize edgy content, and just the reality, they are demonetizing what many people would deem more conservative points of view, or perhaps not even necessarily conservative, just not hyper Google, hyper liberal type viewpoints. And that's a little unfortunate because there's no need for that. But the Young Turks is fully fine. They're getting all their videos monetized with YouTube's like deluxe ads, which means that they get higher clicks per thousand in terms of actual money that they make. And it's really stupid because they use the F word in every single video. They talk about the same sort of edgy stuff that everybody else talks about, but they're just fine. Whereas you can have a guy like you guys were talking about, Ben Shapiro, who, whether you agree with him or not on anything, doesn't matter. He should still have the right to speak. And he's like a little midget Jew who's adorable. And like, you just want to give him a hug because he's really cute. And he's getting demonetized because he's apparently speaking violence. You can't speak violence, okay? That's not a thing. That's one thing that's bugged me. All these gaming YouTubers trying to appease the Google overlords by just saying like, hey, yes, I will totally adhere to everything you're saying. Yes, that guy, he's terrible. It's awful. Yes, you like, I will suck you. Let's come here. I will do whatever you want me to. Just let me have my ads. And that's ultimately not how you do it. I think really you just got to keep doing it, keep making money. If they try to push you off like Twitter pushed Milo off, which regardless of your political stance, is just not good. It's just not good. You just shouldn't ban somebody for making fun of a horrible movie. And Ghostbusters was a horrible movie. It just was. It just was. I literally have never met I met one person who said they liked Ghostbusters, but when I asked them why they liked the new Ghostbusters, they said it was just because It was really empowering. And if your reason for liking anything includes the word empowering, you've done something wrong. But yeah, no, YouTube is going through a big change, just as the gaming industry is going through a big change. And it's going to be interesting to see where it lands and what happens at the end of the day, because ultimately there is going to have to be some sort of resolution. They're going to have to come to some point where the content creators say, screw it, we're going to Twitch, or screw it, we're going to wherever, or YouTube's going to have to find some way I guess, appease everybody and make everybody feel as though everything's okay. With gaming, they've done some stuff, like they brought in, like, what did they call it? I think they call it sponsorships. It's like exactly what Twitch has, like exactly what Twitch has, just the exact, like, feature list. It's what YouTube now offers. It's really kind of hilarious when you compare it line by line. And YouTube has the resources. If they wanted to try to pound Twitch into the dirt, they have the resources, they have the infrastructure to do it. It's just a matter of whether or not they want to, because, like, you think the adpocalypse is hitting YouTube now. Wait until the YouTube live streaming starts getting up there where it's competing with network television, because right now top streamers typically float around 10 to like 15,000 people watching a given stream. Once that gets up to 20, 30, 40,000, you better believe there's going to be all sorts of crazy algorithms that are analyzing the content to make sure you aren't using anything copyrighted, to make sure that you aren't doing all sorts of crap that they don't like, to make sure you aren't using naughty words. The biggest streams are going to have like FCC people watching it. I'm not sure if that's what we all want, but ultimately that's where it's going to go. Just because it is. If you're bringing advertisers into this, they're going to want to make sure that you don't have any of these issues, and those things are always going to be there on the internet, or it won't be the internet anymore and people will just move elsewhere. So I don't know, in the next 5 years or so, there's going to be a real shift on Twitch and on YouTube, where it's going to be weird to see where it goes. Many people are going to be disenfranchised and are going to go out. It's going to be really unfortunate. Lots of your favorite YouTubers are going to back out and have to bail. But that's part of it. And I've wanted to make videos in the last week or two making fun of gaming YouTubers, being one. Because I've lost money in the adpocalypse, sure. But ultimately, I know I'm covering games where you go and you kill people, you shoot them through the head. Things like that. And I understand why an advertiser might not want to have their ad run on that video. I can understand that. And I think for many of these YouTubers who are freaking out about it, it's a little disingenuous that they might not understand it. Now, where it is a problem is when, like, a video that has no profanity, that has nothing like that. Carrick from ACG puts out incredible reviews. He's done many without any profanity, without, like, a video game that has no violence whatsoever, and it will get taken down or deemed not friendly for advertisers. And that just, it happens, and they have to fix that. That's an issue. But ultimately, when these big YouTubers are complaining because their videos are getting demonetized, like, cry me a river. Like, just cry me a river. Like, you put out a thing, you're trying to make money from advertisers. If the advertisers don't like you, then that's just, they don't like you. Like that, and that's part of the game. You have to play the game, and part of the game is getting advertisers to like you by not saying stupid stuff. And so there's so many layers to this, guys. There's so many layers to this. It's just really, really bizarre. But yeah, short stream my butt. Oh. Anyway, I'm starting to really think also about what I'm going to give Game of the Year to. I don't know why it's been on my mind, but I've been really pondering it. And I try to make a point every time I'm starting to rev up towards the end of the year to decide what game is going to win it. I try to go back and play through all of those games, at least a good chunk of them, fresh, knowing what I know about them, playing through it again, just to see what it's like. And that's where I got this footage for Horizon Zero Dawn. Obviously a candidate for Game of the Year. Breath of the Wild, obviously a candidate. For me, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice is a real candidate. I loved that game. Even if it's not necessarily like a game, it was more of an experience. It was a little bizarre, but yeah. This stream has been bizarre. Yeah, Slugcat Jack, I'm glad to see you're back. This has been bizarre. We started late. I didn't have a lot of topics lined up because I was out till 2 last night for the show that opens tomorrow. It's just been a crazy day, and I'm just kind of ranting. But it's probably about that time to cut it off to go. Also, I should ask you guys, now that the stream's over, you guys have had your chance to see me throughout this entire game, or throughout this entire video. Do I look any like darker than I normally do? Besides that, that's like a bruise. I donated blood after the shooting, and I have a slight bruise on the arm because my vein was like really protruding, but she stuck the needle in like sideways, so she had to like pull it out and then stick it back in, and so it's all bruised up, but it's okay now. But do I look any darker? No, I don't. It's okay if I don't. But for this show, I'm playing somebody who has to go through or is from LA, and it's like a teenager, and apparently I don't look like an LA teenager. I'm a little too white. So the director actually said I needed to go to a tanning salon and get their new spray tan, which was an experience. It's not like an actual ink they spray on you. It's actually like a chemical they spray on your skin, and then it goes into like the melanin in your dead skin cells and breaks it apart and puts it into the rest of your skin so that you actually are darkening, but it's not like an ink. So it takes like 4 to 6 hours to actually darken. It's a little weird. I still don't look very, very dark. You can see maybe in my hand, you see the slight, like it's darker here, light, dark on the tips, but just these knuckles, the second knuckles in the middle, they aren't very dark. That's because they have you do like this bear claw thing when you stand. And I think my hands were like that. So it didn't get on that knuckle, but it got on these knuckles. So I have this weird white patch in the middle. It looks really stupid. But even me on like a medium spray tan is super white, so it looks a little stupid. The camera isn't doing it a whole lot of justice, but I wanted to see if you guys would notice, because I was worried it was going to be like that episode of Friends where I turn on the camera and I'm like, I'm an 8. It's terrible that I only got my front side, and it's real bad. But it actually wasn't horrible. It makes you smell weird, and you're all oily and sticky, and you can't shower for like 8 hours. It's horrible. Yes, Nick Lenny. That's a good estimation of my whiteness. I think that's fair. Okay, well, let's just jump right into the final flush. For those of you who are not familiar with what this is, let me go like that. I'm going to uncheck this, and essentially what this is your chance to try to get a little bit of internet infamy. And by a little bit, I mean a little bit. All you're going to do is you're going to put something into the chat, and you're going to try to get me crack up while I'm reading it, just like people usually do, like little jokes. And I think Bebop won last week. You just put something a little silly, like a little joke in, a pun or something, and try to get me crack up while I'm reading it. You have 2 minutes or a minute and a half or so to put that in, and then I'm going to read through them, and if I keep a straight face and don't crack up while reading them, I win. If I break, whoever got me to break wins. And then we usually have some way of celebrating. I have not thought this far ahead. I should find something. What should we celebrate with? I'm not sure what we should celebrate with. I did not think this far ahead. Is there anything funny out? A new funny something? I don't know. That's one thing you guys can put in the chat if you have something funny you'd like for us to all partake in to celebrate whoever wins. Okay, that seems like a good amount of time. I've given you a minute and a half or so. I'll take one big swig and then we'll jump right into it. Oh yeah. Okay. Are you ready? Should I play a little music in the background? Probably. Make it a little more interesting so I'm not just kind of floating. No, not this one. This one's too slow. Ah, poo. I gotta pull it up myself. What is this? Where is it? There it is. We'll go there. I'll do this. Hopefully you guys can hear it. Okay. I'm ready to go. I'm ready. Final flush. Okay, we're going. Okay, comments. Let me turn this on. Oh crap, I scrolled too far. Crap. Okay, I'm redhead. Hey Luke, you better watch it or H Kami guy will claim your stream. Yeah, I didn't laugh. I coughed. Yes, you gotta be careful. H Kami guy might come. I did breathe and he's been known to do that as well, so I am doing exactly what he's done. I am terrible. I'm coughing, a terrible cough. What do you call a black guy with half a brain? Gifted. Oh. What do pizzas and parents have in common? If they're black, you have nothing to eat. Third wave femme. This, traps are straight. Do you think KKK members use their outfits to double as a ghost on Halloween? I would. It just makes sense to me, like, you know, double trouble. Oh crap, I bought a GTX 1080 Ti and it's thermal throttling while gaming. That's not good. Luke, even when you use spray tan, you're white as a school shooter. Oh, that's pretty, that's good. That's good. Okay, I'll give that one to you. Under 90 seconds too. You are a pro. Is that LAD formerly a boy? Is that lad formerly a boy? Well done. You are the winner. Why is gaming dark? Because of the future. Sorry if I wasn't clear about that. I thought we talked about it for like half an hour. Just because of where we're going with monetization and microtransactions. I think it's a potentially dark place to go, and I'm not super excited about it. But ultimately, the power lies with us, the consumers. If we continue to pay these people to do crappy things, they're going to continue to do crappy things. So we ultimately have to just stop buying it. Don't buy these games that are pushing microtransactions, and there won't really be an issue. Ultimately, it's pretty simple. Just don't give them your money, and they'll be like, crap, we need their money. What can we do to get you to be okay with it? And they'll move on. I think after Bethesda bombs in their next title, which hopefully they will, not because I hate everyone at Bethesda, but because ultimately there needs to be an example of like, look, even Bethesda can't get away with this. Even Bethesda, makers of almighty Skyrim, can fall by the wayside and make mistakes, and I think they need to at least see a hiccup. Fallout 4 was a bit of a train wreck, but still they do have some power in the industry, and a lot of people look to them and say, well, if Bethesda's doing it and still selling millions of copies of Fallout 4, we can do it too. And I think that's a really unfortunate and dangerous way to look at it, and I think they might come to regret it, because obviously the gamer perception towards Bethesda has really gone downhill, and whatever their next game is has to be truly amazing in order for any of us to give it a shot or give a crap. And yeah, that's that was my rant. What was I looking for? I was gonna look for like a little outro music. Here, we'll do this. We'll do this one. This one's epic. Just like that. It's beautiful. It does actually look like Origins will have microtransactions, yes. Just like Syndicate did. Somebody pointed it out. Actually, we could... It's not on Steam. It's on Origins, I believe. Or Origin. No, Uplay. Is it? Yeah, it is. Let's see. We can check it right now. We have the power. Right here. Assassin's Creed Origins. In-app purchases. Yep. That's all it says right now. But it looks like there will be in-app purchases. Whether that's just like to get this pre-order mission, I don't know, or if it's including this stuff. But as you can see already, there are microtransactions and things you can buy, whether it's aesthetic or bonus ability points. That's concerning. Just like I said in my video, it's concerning. Certainly. I can hit that note. Whether or not it's... But that's a big question to ask again. While we're fading out, will that actually affect the gameplay? Because if, like, Shadow of War did it and wasn't so intrusive, it wouldn't be a big deal. But the fact that they do it and it affects the game to the point where you have to grind 20 hours, that's what people are really upset about. If you can play the game and have a great time without paying, no one really cares. But if it does affect the game and the game is really dry because they're trying to push you to buy that stuff, that's a problem. Certainly. But thank you for sticking around through the technical issues, the good and the bad. Is that boy, or is that lad, formerly a boy, won the final flush. Well done. Congratulations. Aesthetic. Yes, we all said aesthetic. I'm excited. I'm excited. We got some games coming out. I'm pumped. But yes, I will see you guys. I'm bad at outros, as you can tell. I have this show. If you're in Colorado, come see it. It's going to be good. We're going to have a great time. But with that, I love you all. Peace out. I'm bad at goodbyes and slow outros. So, bye, bye, bye. I'm back. Bye.